You can't be a great dad. You can't be a great leader in business. You can't be a great husband or wife if you're not working. And when I mean working, it's like you have to be preparing yourself every day. You got to put the reps in, because no matter what you do, no matter how much preparation and love and care you put into greatness at any of these endeavors that I'm describing, your very best efforts are going to fail at some point. And how do you cope with your best intentions, your plan?
All right, everybody. Today we have for you a super special guest coming to you from the Venetian Resort, Las Vegas, the beautiful poker room here to talk about all things life, the meaning of life, and hitting this little white ball around for 18 holes and how those two things are actually related. We're super happy to have with us today Virgil Herring, PGA professional. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hey man, thanks for having me on. This is great. Awesome venue.
Well, I got to spend some time learning about the meaning of life with my great friend David Meltzer, playing over at Arroyo Trabuco, along with Miles, who's tremendous golfer. One of the things that I love about golf is that, one, it is a game that closely parallels life. Two, brings people together. And three, oftentimes you're able to find out about people by playing golf with them. It either brings you closer or reveals elements of their personality that might end up moving you apart. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many connections, relationships, and business occurs on the golf course. You spent your early career really in sort of the competitive side of the sport, but now you're transitioning into this sort of the esoteric side. Of course, you want us to play well and enjoy the game, but now you're really diving into the minds of high-performing individuals, entrepreneurs, the corporate world. Tell us what that experience has been like, that jump from like people that are out there cutthroat, how many strokes, one stroke less determines maybe $100,000 on my paycheck this week, to now the full broad understanding the universe of golf.
Well, to me, I think it starts with, what it takes to be great at golf and what it takes to be great at life. They kind of run parallel with each other, right? So one of the key rules in golf is that it's not how great your great shot is, it's how good your bad is. So in many ways, when we're dealing with life and we're dealing with other people, it's not so much how great their great is or how great your great is. It's like when things aren't going good, how do you respond? And how do you cope with it? So like the best players in the world, like Scotty Scheffler, Tiger in his prime, their bad was really good. So what is that really telling us, right? So people enter the game or enter like life issues with, I hope I can do this. And then they learn skills that make them better so that they are good enough to do it right. Then they believe they can do it. But what it takes to be truly great is you do it so much that you can't do it wrong. So the difference between people who have really high ceilings but don't seem to win because they make big mistakes under the gun is that they've only practiced it enough to do it right. But the guys and the girls that become elite have done it so much, they've refined it so much that their bad is still good. So one of the things that I'm trying to coach people through in their profession or in their life or whatever I'm asked to help with, because I'm just a coach, right? And I have a process that I follow no matter what it is that I'm going through to help people become that, is what phase are you in? Are you hoping to learn how to do this? Do you believe that you can do this? Or do you actually want to learn how to know how to do this? And there's a big gap between I believe I can and I know I can.
That's so powerful, the whole how good is your bad, because I ask myself a lot, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up in the worst of times? Because that's who my true core is and that's who my true character is. So many people say, well, who do I want to be? Like, who's my best self? And how do I want to show up in the best of times? Actually, who you show up as in the worst of times, the hardest of times, the most stressful times is really who you should want to be. That's your best self, right? Yeah. And I think that is such a powerful lesson because when things are tough and stressful, and golf is stressful. I can't tell you how many times my husband has come home and told me that he's quitting golf. I think
You
golf,
and Miles.
I think golf is the one sport where people quit it more often than they want to stay in it. I'm like, really? Like this thing that you go and spend 4 hours doing and buy all this gear for, you want to quit it every other day? Like, but it's like, who do you show up in those moments is such a powerful statement. And so how do you get people to show up as their best in the worst?
I call that job security, by the
I
way.
love it. I know.
But at the end of the day,
Have you ever quit golf?
Yeah.
twice.
Okay.
Seriously.
Yeah,
go.
under
For 6 months.
Under 60.
There you
He
go.
played twice under 60.
6 months. Yeah.
But really, what it comes down to for me was I was blessed with ability, and I fell in love with perfection and chasing it. So that raised the expectation bar past reality. And as soon as I couldn't fulfill the expectations that I had in my head, it cracked me to the point where I felt like I sucked. I was never going to be any good at this. Because obviously, of course, when I grew up, it was Greg Norman. Then it became Tiger Woods, and now it's Rory or Scheffler or whoever you want to call. It was like, there's no way that they hit as bad a shots as I do. Until I started to study, then I realized when I was at my very best physical peak, I was so unforgiving of myself for mistakes. And I didn't realize how many mistakes the very best players make. And then I was like, that's what drove me to be the coach then. Because once I had given up the idea that I was good enough, which was really false, I realized it was in my head. And then as I watch relationships, whether it be husband, wife, father, daughter, business situations, it became very clear to me that marriages fail not when things are going great, but what happens when it's not going great. And I'm like, can you show up as your best self when things are going bad?
Right.
Because it's easy to show up as your best self when things are going good. Now, what does that mean? Well, that takes preparation. You can't be a great dad. You can't be a great leader in business. You can't be a great husband or wife if you're not working. And when I mean working, it's like you have to be preparing yourself every day. You got to put the reps in, because no matter what you do, no matter how much preparation and love and care you put into greatness at any of these endeavors that I'm describing, your very best efforts are going to fail at some point. And how do you cope with your best intentions, your best attempts at delivering good, and they come out terrible? And what does that make the other person feel like? And if they are hurting, and you're like, I get that you're hurting, but I literally gave everything I had to this mission, and it imploded. Do you make excuses? Do you listen? Are you able to accept and move on? Or do you self-loathe and beat yourself up? Or do you completely dismiss it? At the end of the day, there's where me taking people onto the golf course and taxing them on the golf course, it becomes very easy to reveal whether they're a repellent or a magnetic person. Because if I tax you on the golf course and you become a club thrower, or all of a sudden that ball has a mysteriously better lie, or 5 became 4,
Yeah.
well, that's a character flaw that shows up across every level. So when people are asking me, why am I struggling in my marriage? Why am I struggling in my business? Why am I struggling being a dad or a mom? Well, it's a fun way to learn what's really going on, because generally speaking, we stopped playing games at 18. But we learned almost all of our lessons in life as a kid playing games. But when we learned those lessons, we didn't learn them painfully through a first person. We were oftentimes pretending to be John Elway, pretending to be Michael Jordan, pretending to be Greg Norman, Tiger Woods, or whatever. So when you lost, it was a third person loss, not a first person loss. So that didn't turn out the way I would have loved to have made that shot, but I didn't. But that was Michael Jordan's fault. That wasn't me. But when we stop playing games, every lesson becomes first person. And all of a sudden, the lessons get less fun and more painful. And when they get more painful, you respond differently. And to me, I like to ease the lesson in, because you're playing a sport. You're out there competing largely against yourself. And most of the time, you're playing a really beautiful golf course. So all of those things should make things easier to enjoy, but oftentimes all they do is amplify expectations, and then we really see the problem.
Wow.
And then it's the response to the problem is that the first response is almost always the first problem, much like the golf swing. It's like the first thing that goes wrong is the thing that sets the table for all the things you feel. So like when we were working with your swing, you were feeling like this is your problem, but that was actually just the first compensation for the real problem. And that goes all the way through life.
Absolutely.
And if I can create an environment that's funner to learn the hard lessons of life, it's a lot easier to accept what it is that you have to do to get better.
And I want to point out there's a book called The Alter Ego Effect of Michael Herman that addresses exactly why and how you can separate your own ego from the play or the practice of making money. And I want to talk about the practice of making money. As you have evolved from player to coach, and you are one of the world's greatest coaches, seen on Golf Channel for a reason, analyzing people's mindset mainly. There's many aspects of why and how to utilize you. So there's executives out there that really love golf, and it's like the tutor in math that takes kids out in their backyard and plays sports and utilizes what they love to teach them different arcs and trajectories and geometry and calculus, and those are the best teachers. And when I met Virgil, knowing about him in the sports world as being one of the world's best coaches, I didn't realize how many executives would learn more, because I coach executives, but you have a huge leg up, no pun intended, on me, that you can use what they love the most to teach them a better way to be an executive. But one of the aspects that I didn't realize was that you also can be used as a bug light to, and I utilize you first. I'm not sure you've ever done it before, but tons of my executive friends want to do it. Is there's so many golf tournaments out there that do the exact same thing. Exact same thing. They get the sponsors, you get your foursome, experiential business development, content, all that. But bringing you to a golf tournament and having you float around and be able, just for 3 holes, to help groups. And it elevates the value of what, and it's something different when you have these high net wealth individuals, the business development of going to a golf tournament. Why do you think it elevates the value of a golf tournament when you come and you know a guy like this, it's just 1 or 2 pieces of advice,
right,
but it may change their game, and they credit Dave Meltzer for having a golf tournament when they got to meet you?
Well, I think that it extrapolates outward in a variety of ways, right? So at first it could be as simple as your aim, which can be equal your mission, right, is off. But you don't realize it because the difference in golf is like your eyes are looking one place, but your body may be going another, which is no different than you're saying that you want your company to be doing this, but it's aiming in another direction right now, right? So it starts there because that begins the problems, right? So if you're a right aimer, more than likely your ball position's back and the swing goes inside. Now I hit a hook or a block, and that's terrible because those 2 shots are 150 yards apart. So now you can't even play the game, right? So when you find companies that are spiraling or going in the wrong direction, oftentimes their alignment to their mission is not in the same direction, but they don't even realize it because they're trying really hard to do it right. So just simply getting them aligned and then strategically understanding how this design of this hole is telling you what you're supposed to do. So that bunker is right where your drive wants to go. So we have to play short of that, because why would you hit it into a 20-yard area when you can hit it into a 60-yard area and take the pressure off the shot? Because unless you absolutely have to do that, it makes no sense to try that. Well, as soon as I steer people into that place, now the next shot gets way easier, and they're already less stressed because the shot they just played didn't cause any stress. So now they're more likely to be in their right brain instead of the prefrontal cortex being involved, and now they can play the next shot correctly. So when they start to think like, so what's going on in your business? What are you doing that is throwing the prefrontal cortex involved in what's going on that not allowing you to function what you already know how to do in your sleep. You're getting in your own way. Why? How? So it's alignment, then strategy, and then ultimately learning how to be immersively present, because being present is the first ingredient to flow state, zone state, which is the ultimate performance of life. And when you can stay present and you don't get ahead of yourself and you don't go backward and play in the past, and you're right here, right now, now you have the ability to do whatever it takes right now for your company, your family, your relationships, or your golf. And you do that for X amount of holes, and you automatically start to see the strategic mind of a professional playing golf and how simple they make it. The professional golfers are doing the easiest things, not the hardest things. And the very best in business are actually doing the easiest things very well. And the ones that are trying to catch up think they have to do things more difficult or more challenging to get to that place. And they ultimately wreck in the process of doing that, because they're running the engine, redlining it too much when it's unnecessary. So it becomes very easy to see that. And that to me has turned into the funnest part of my life, is because life is more than golf to me, right? But I get pigeonholed for a long time because people thought I did was coach golf. And now it's offered me the opportunity to share a different perspective of the game while encouraging you to be better at whatever it is that you want to be better at.
Well, I absolutely love that. I got to say, for me, Virgil has done so much to help me to understand the actual technicalities of the golf swing and then translate that into life itself, into business. I want to encourage everyone listening, watching, to please connect with Virgil Herring. He has so much to offer you. I guarantee you that he will make not only your golf game more enjoyable, but your life and business as well. All right, folks, that's it for this week here on the podcast. Don't miss out next week. We're going to do it again, and we're going to be right back here with even more guests.